First of all, apologies that my session had to be rescheduled. I wanted to talk about trust and trustworthiness in e-commerce. However, it appeared that trusting the flight schedules is not a very good idea at this part of the year. So I wanted to talk about trust and trustworthiness in e-commerce. However, before that, I want to share with you some thoughts about information systems which are generally being used in e-commerce in both the past and the future, and also some remarks regarding boundaries of these systems. Then, after discussing trust and trustworthiness issues, I also want to share with you some thoughts about building trust of customers, then showing what may be the reward for investing in this area. So thinking about IT systems which are being used for commerce, we may think that in the past these systems were quite, let's say, heavy, quite expensive. They were not integrated with anything. So if such systems had interfaces to exchange data, these interfaces were typically offline interfaces because the integration was so expensive. So the main processes which integrated the processes between companies were made manually by operators, users, and so on. The future is, of course, in e-commerce. That's why we all are here. And in the future, let's say, topology of the world, we can think that there are many systems which has online interfaces. We are able to dynamically compose services. We are able to dynamically change e-commerce processes just at the moment. And there are no serious technical obstacles for this integration. But the question is, are the old problems solved? Okay. So I think that we should refer to the definition, what the information system is. If we would take a look on the, let's say, academics definition of the system, we would find a definition similar to this on the slide. So a set of interconnected components which has the function of that data processing with the use of computation tools. This definition was very good for legacy systems. However, is it still okay when we are considering e-commerce processes? So here on this slide, this is an example of typical, maybe not the only one, but probable e-commerce process. A user receives an offer using an email or some other communication channel. Then he goes to online shop, then to payment integrator, then to the bank if he's using pay by links or some other site. Then his order is being placed in goods supplier, let's say, warehouse. We may assume that this is a different entity than the online shop itself. So if we would think about the definition which was presented on the previous slide, the question would be, what's the system on in this process? Where are boundaries of this system? And what's more important, who is responsible for the whole process? If we would think about legacy systems, the past again, we could think that boundaries of the system and responsibility to have everything as it should be was bounded by the, let's say, external interfaces of the system. We could say that everyone is responsible for what's behind his own firewall. However, what I will refer to in a couple of minutes, it may not be true in e-commerce world. So, thinking for a while about what the trust is, I have found very interesting in terms of this conference subject definition in English dictionary. Trust is the confidence in the certainty of future payment for property or goods received. Credit in the term to sell merchandise on trust. So most of you here are running online business. Think about trust to put in your customers. Who of you would sell the would send the merchandise to your customer, trusting that they will eventually pay in a couple of weeks? So this is the matter of trust. Trustworthiness, on the other hand, is related to, in relation to IT system, is the certainty that IT system can deliver a certain set of requirements, and we have some proofs, some evidence that it does so. So it is a different term, because in the trust was, we could think, a mental term. We don't have any strict definition to say when the trust appears and how the trust should be managed. However, trustworthiness is a matter of evidence. We will discuss, for example, certification in a moment, and this type of, let's say, approaches. What's omitted in these two definitions, however, it should be noted that it is important, is the context of use. Every user, if he is selecting a service, has some purpose, some need to satisfy in mind. So, building the trust, and it was also said on the previous presentation, building trust may be connected with understanding what user is actually doing with our service. Why has he came here? Is he looking for the, let's say, cheapest stuff on the market, or is he looking for something which is best? Will he use the laptop, for example, he is going to purchase to give him to his kids? He will work on this laptop, or maybe he has some nail to be, let's say, hit with this laptop. We need to know this. One important thing which appeared in my research was also related to priorities. If we would ask a question, what's more important? Revenues or customer satisfaction? Of course, most of you are here responsible for bringing revenues to your companies. So the question may be regarded as, let's say, not addressed properly to this audience. However, if we would think about long-term strategies, investing in customer satisfaction may give you something which is very valuable. I mean, it may bring you the customer who will return and continue selecting your service, your business in the internet. For example, a couple of years ago, I was running a project for one of the largest banks in Poland, and we were delivering software for the users which allowed them to access bank services. And we had a problem with one of the users, because on his computer, the software which we were delivering was not working. So I made the decision that we will buy a computer for this user. So we bought a computer, gave him to him, and said, look, now the service is working properly. You can think about it in this way, that the price which we were charging was something about 100 leis for this service, while the computer at that time costed about 2,000 leis. So eventually we didn't earn much on this customer. However, a couple of months ago, the sponsor of the whole process was so glad that customers are satisfied that we were earning millions on this contract. So was it worth it? Looking at this particular service, was it more important to, let's say, have revenues from this single service or to satisfy the customer? Building trust may be based, as I have mentioned, on, let's say, certification. In scientific approach, we could say that it's building knowledge on description. For example, in Poland, we have created a certification scheme for the software, which is related to ISO IEC quality model of software. And we have let's say, proposed 3 areas where the software can be certified. Is the part connected with usability, we can call it ergonomics, safety and security. It's interesting in itself because most of the systems which are used in e-commerce are dealing with real money assets. And if you would think, what internal safety mechanism do you have in the systems to preserve data integrity, to preserve that no one loses money when the system, for example, fails, then maybe you will not be very satisfied. So this was the second area. The third was the area of formal, we could say, legal compliance. However, thinking about building knowledge from description should note also one important thing which appears in research results, is that when people are reading descriptions, they are overweighting small probabilities. That's why people who are going abroad, for example, are buying insurance. Because when they are reading what may happen to them, they are thinking, oh, I should better buy the insurance. From economic point of view, buying insurance may be not such a good idea because probability that something will happen to them is so low, but people are buying it. And this is the problem with descriptions. The other approach may be based on experience. And here you have an example of the research I have conducted. We had 4 independent groups which I asked to evaluate 5 consecutive versions of the same application. And you can see on this line here, it was the quality of the application. The application was artificial, so I was generating artificial failures during the testing. And 2 groups were experiencing, let's say, quite stable quality level, while the other 2 groups has experienced dramatic fall in quality. Then at the end, both tracks were finishing with the same quality value. And I asked users to evaluate the quality of this last version. The groups who hadn't experienced this dramatic fall assessed the quality on the scale from 1 to 11, that it's something about 4. The groups which experienced this dramatic fall in quality assessed exactly the same product, as something about 2. What does it mean? That the only difference between these groups was their experience, nothing else. And the assessment of the product was critically different. Getting back to responsibility of the whole process, I want to show you a movie which was prepared when me and my colleague were evaluating security for one of big e-commerce players on Polish market. We have found that during evaluating of his system, we have found that his payment integrator had some vulnerability. It wasn't something which was very serious. If we would approach this integrator and say him, hey guys, you have a problem on your interface, they would say, come on, it's nothing. Our process is safe. And they would be right. However, connecting what they have did here, of course, I should add that this payment integrator was not PayU. It was other player on the market. If we would connect this with typical, let's say, characteristics of the offer sending process, then I will show you what happened. So, can we have the movie? Yeah, here. I will use the mouse to stop and play it. I will. Sorry. Okay, so here the screen is divided into two parts. Sorry, it was prepared in Polish 2 years ago, so I don't have possibility to translate it right now. But we have two sides. The white side is the customer, and the black one is the hacker. And the customer has some site which he entrusts. This is some payment site where he is usually making his payments. And to differentiate it, it's orange. You can imagine that these sites are identical. The only purpose to differentiate the color is that you will know later on which site is from, let's say, which source. Hacker has prepared the same site, looking exactly the same. However, it's green for the purpose of this film. So, in this experiment, the customer will receive an offer in a second. Okay, so here's the offer: buy a ticket for Euro 2012 and click to purchase. When the customer will click the link which was attached to the offer, he enters the site. This site looks exactly like the site he entrusts. It has the same URL address. It has the same certificate validation in the screen. However, it is not the site which is provided by the payment provider in this situation. However, the customer is not aware about this fact, so he proceeds, he enters his credit and card information. However, the hacker is already aware that someone has clicked his offer. Okay, let's wait, because the customer is rather slow. Then the customer may see any type of error or anything. He's now on the correct version of the site. However, the payment was not done. Maybe it even could be done. It doesn't matter, because the problem already passed. The hacker has received an email. In our experiment, we prepared exactly this type of let's say, mail server. And he received all credit card information which were entered on the site which was known by the customer. So, getting back to the presentation, we could see that, as I said, small vulnerability here and typical, let's say, use model of mailing offers created a problem. And we could think, who would be blamed by the user if such situation would happen? Will he blame online shop, maybe payment aggregator, maybe the bank, maybe goods supplier, maybe all of them? Or maybe he will blame his email? Don't think so. So, okay. So, thinking about building trust, we have to think about the whole complete context. And I want to show you some information which present the result of caring for the whole process. Poland was mentioned here, and these are also information from Polish e-commerce market. So Allegro and PayU have adopted strategy to care for end-to-end e-commerce process, not only for what's behind our firewalls, but the whole process from the beginning to the end. One of the trust indicators in the definition which were presented previously was related to entrusting someone our money. If we give our money to someone, then we may think that we trust this person. And for example, payments which are done through a PayU platform on Allegro have such characteristics that 83% of users are paying in advance. The rest is paying on delivery. However, outside our processes, it's almost opposite. Only 30% of the users are paying in advance, and most of the users are paying on delivery. Why? Trust could be one of the good answers to this question. Sorry. So, summarizing. In e-commerce, in business, trust plays a significant role. In e-commerce, it's even more important because delivery and the payment are not in the same moment in time. So someone has to trust the other person to perform the whole process. Building the trust requires complete picture of user needs, a complete picture of the process, of what's behind, what are the connections in the process, so we will be able to deliver positive user experience. Not positive user experience on our part of the process, but complete positive experience. We could think about certification and this descriptive part of the, let's say, trust building. However, from my point of view, it's in experimental state. In fact, today it was a seminar in ISO IAC regarding the project which is aiming to build trustworthiness platform for software certification for worldwide. However, if you think about this end-to-end responsibility and building trust of your customers to your business, you should think about selecting right partners. Thank you.
Thank you.